To answer this question, we must know that movements along the demand and supply curve are caused by changes in the price of a good, whereas shifts in the supply and demand curve occur if something other than the price of a good changes. We are first told that the demand for hops and beer has increased due to the tastes and preferences of consumers. As a factor other than the price of a good has changed, this will cause the demand curve to shift to the right as consumers are demanding a higher quantity of the good. This will therefore lead the equilibrium price of P1 to increase to P2. In the next part of the question, we are told that the biggest hop producer on the market has had a dry year. As hops are an input in beer and their price has risen, this will cause the supply curve to shift to the left. This will cause producers to supply a lower quantity of beer as their cost of production has risen, thus shifting the equilibrium price from P2 to P3. The answer is therefore D. The answer is D, as the graph shows the demand curve first shifting to the right, which increases the equilibrium price from P1 to P2. The graph then shows the supply curve to shift to the left, which shows the increase in equilibrium price from P2 to P3. Thus, D illustrates the correct transitioning of sequence of equilibrium price. The answer cannot be A, because at P1 the supply and demand curves are not in equilibrium, showing there to be a surplus. Then instead of the demand curve shifting to the right due to tastes and preferences of consumers, graph A shows there to be downward movement along the supply and demand curves until equilibrium price P2 is reached. This states that there has been a change in the price of hops, not an increase in the demand. The answer cannot be B either. Although the initial shift of demand to the right is correct, the secondary shift to the right in supply is incorrect, as that states that the input prices of hops decreased rather than increased. The answer also cannot be C, as the question states demand has increased due to the tastes and preferences of consumers, which means the demand curve must shift to the right, whereas graph C shows the supply curve shifting to the left. This is incorrect, as tastes and preferences cannot shift the supply curve.
In relation to this question, the article states that there is an increased demand for beer from South America, Russia and China. This can be shown by a shift to the right on the demand curve, which will therefore cause the equilibrium income to increase. The law of supply states that all other things being equal, as the price of a good increases, the quantity supplied of a good will also increase. This increase in equilibrium price will therefore result in producers supplying a greater quantity of hops, as they can obtain a higher level of profits per unit of hops sold. Thus, the short-run impact of the increase in demand will result in higher profit for Australian hop growers. The answer is therefore D. The answer is D, as the graph shows the increase in demand due to customer tastes and preferences via a shift in the demand curve to the right, which therefore leads to an increase in equilibrium price. The answer cannot be B, as it shows a movement along the demand curve rather than a shift. An increase in demand due to taste and preferences should have shifted the demand curve to the right. The answer cannot be B either, as the supply curve shifts to the left instead of the demand curve shifting to the right, thus not showing the increase in demand. The answer also cannot be C, as the supply curve has shifted to the right. This is incorrect, as there has been an increase in demand due to the tastes and preferences of consumers, meaning the demand curve must shift to the right, not the supply curve.
In a perfectly competitive market in the long run, if firms already in the market are profitable, then new firms will have an incentive to enter the market. This entry will expand the number of firms, increase the quantity of the goods supplied, and drive down the prices and profits. From the previous question, we have established that in the short run, the profits of individual hop producers will increase, and they will therefore sell a higher quantity of hops due to the increase in demand. Thus, as firms in the market are already profitable, new firms will enter the market, therefore the supply of hops will increase. This increase in the number of sellers will shift the supply curve to the right, causing the equilibrium price of hops to decrease until no more profits can be made, i.e. break-even point. However, at this equilibrium point, even though the prices of hops will be lower, there will be greater industry output as there are a greater number of hop producers in the market. The answer is therefore A. The answer to the question is therefore A, as the graph initially shows the short-run impact of the increase in demand to be profitable, represented by the red line, then shows the supply curve to shift to the right due to the increased number of sellers in the market, represented by the blue line, while also showing at point 3 that there has been a decrease in the market price until the break-even point. And 4 correctly states that even though the market price has decreased, industry output will still increase. The answers B and C are incorrect, as both graphs initially show the short-run impact of the increase in demand to result in losses for individual hop producers. The answer D is also incorrect, even though the graph initially shows the short-run impact of the increase in demand to be profitable. This is because the supply curve then shifts to the left instead of the right, stating that industry output has decreased, which is not the case as more sellers have entered the market. Thus, there should be an increase in industry output.
We believe the long-run supply is upward sloping due to the principle that firms may have different costs, i.e., for any given price, producers with lower costs are more likely to enter than those with higher costs. Therefore, to increase the quantity of goods sold, additional entrants must be encouraged to enter the market. However, as those new entrants have high costs, the price must therefore rise in order to make entry profitable for them. Thus, if there's an increase in the price of hops, there will be an increase in the quantity supplied as new producers will be more enticed to enter the market due to the prospect of higher profits being received. The long-run supply curve is therefore represented by an upward slope because for every increase in price, there will also be a proportional higher quantity of hops sold. The reason the long-run supply curve may not slope downwards is due to the fact that the price is directly proportional to the quantity supplied in the market, and when price increases, quantity will also increase. In the same way, when price decreases, quantity will also decrease, i.e., law of supply. Thus, if the long-run supply curve were to slope downwards, producers will be seen to leave the hop market and the quantity of hops supplied will fall due to them receiving a lower price per unit of hops sold, effectively reducing their profit margins. This is shown to be incorrect as question 3 established that there will be a greater level of output in the long run, meaning that more producers have entered the market rather than left, therefore disproving the theory that long-run supply curve may be downward sloping. If the long-run supply curve were to be flat, this would mean that the price of hops would remain constant at a given level and no new producers will enter the market, and no new existing producers will leave the market. This is shown to be incorrect as in question 3 we established that in the long run, industry output will increase. This means that there must be an increase in number of entrants into the market.